Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we're checking out the second of my non-shmup arcade 1cc videos, and this one is a game called Liquid Kids. This was put on Switch by Hamster. It's part of the Arcade Archives series, and the moment I first saw the screenshots of this game, I was just blown away by how fun, colorful, bright, cheery, like vibrant everything looked, and I bought it right away. And when I jumped in, this was quite some time ago, I had a blast with it, but I didn't really stick with pursuing a clear or anything like that until about a month ago is when I actually finally jumped in and decided to just play it and clear it. And I've done about 3 1cc's, and I'm really stoked to share this game because Hamster has a lot of arcade games on the Switch, and yet it's not that represents the bulk of arcade games that exist, but for the most part, when I see the selection, there are a lot of games that don't really look that interesting to me. I'm sure if I was to give them a chance, then I might think differently, but there's just something about this one that looks so much better in my opinion, and I just love it. So I'm going to share a bunch of things about just how interesting and how creative this game is. But anyway, we'll just get right into things. As you can see, we are playing a little character by the name of Hippopo, if I'm not mistaken, and he throws these balls of water, and you can get all sorts of different items that can just serve a bunch of different functions. So you, at one point in like just a few moments ago, you would have seen that I had massive water balls, and that's just one of the items and what it can do. And there are all sorts of things like increasing your movement speed. You can get boots so that you don't slip around, and there's actually a section that I kept in this run, or the reason I kept this run for sharing specifically, because it showcases some of the dangers you really need to watch out for. So I'm excited to share and just talk about that kind of stuff. But as you can see, we're done the first boss already. Now you will have noticed these doors that are popping up here and there. I'm just going to take a swig of water. What's interesting is there are all sorts of routes you can take. In this particular run and the other 2 1cc's that I've done the shortest possible route, or at least the one that I think is the shortest. And it can be tricky finding the doorways. Sometimes you need to, well, actually pretty much every time you need to throw water in a specific area, and then a plant will come up, and then there's your secret passage to kind of just have a shortcut. You can play through it normally if you want, go through extra stages, extra sections, and all that. So there are plenty of areas in this game that I haven't even seen yet because I've only focused on one route this whole time. But this is one of my favorite levels. Just look at the watercolors here and just the effects they used, and it's so colorful. Like, I just love like the flashing stones in the water there, the water jet going upwards, the background, like everything is just crazy. And even little details like this, like the inner tube that you're in when you're in the water, and how you have to ride up the water just to make it to that door. Or even screens like this where like you got to be asking yourself, like, what was the point of them making this room? But it's just wonky, wild stuff, like super fascinating creativity. Like the fact that they programmed it so that you can wear the hat just for this one room. Like, I just think that is so creative. Anyway, here we go. Excuse me. Oh, man. It's not that I've played a ton of non-shmup arcade games, but I can say that this is one of the best looking I've ever seen, and it's easily my favorite. It's just got so many cool features, and the boss fights are really fascinating. And if you're looking for a fun time that isn't going to take a long time to bang out, this is I think the day after I buckled down to play this, I think that's when I had the clear. So if you are looking for something to jump into that you do want to complete, on a single credit, this is a really cool option that isn't going to necessarily take months or anything like that. But there is still a learning curve, of course. So yeah, some of the other items, there are a whole bunch, so it's not like I'm going to remember, as this was a month ago. But there are things that increase the speed of your water ball throwing, and just different things like that. When you see those fiery spawn points that the enemies come out of, if you are right up against it and you touch it, it will cancel out as long as you do that before. So there's a perfect example of a fumble that part of the reason I want to keep this run is because that's a great example of how you have to watch out. I ended up killing myself there because I, at the time, didn't realize that my water, when it's on the floor, it can rush back and it can sweep you off the edge. And that's where it's just really cool seeing things like that. Like, how many games have you played where you don't have that kind of risk? You don't have to think about that sort of thing. But in this game, that's a huge factor. And that's just part of the beauty of some of the items they've thrown in, like the rubber boots, where you don't slip anymore. And of course, those things wear off as far as I know, but at least for a certain period of time, you have access to that benefit. Oh, and I just love the animation of how he's walking up the stairs. A lot of really cool locations in this game too. I love every single world that we get to explore. Just the backgrounds, the color choices, the enemy sprites, the bosses, just the action. Like, everything about this is just so captivating, so charming. So this can be a tricky fight to get used to when you first jump in. I did a bunch of experimenting because I really wanted a consistent way to go about it without messing up. And eventually I found a safe spot once the arms are off of this boss. If you're standing on the steps on that middle platform, in the middle section of the steps, you won't get hit. But you really got to watch because he'll do some flame attacks too and stuff that can kind of snake their way along the ceiling. And so sometimes I would take a hit in my safe spot and not realize what was happening, and then after the fact I clued in and knew that, okay, it's just that I wasn't paying attention to the flames. See how the flames are going around the stairs? Sometimes they'll go further or what have you, depending on where the boss is and when the fire comes out. But for the most part, like, once you kind of know what to do in this game, it's not hard. It's just you got to always pay attention, of course. Man, but I just love the sprite work of our character and the water balls. They just look so cool. Especially when you're walking with them and you can see the animation of the water ball itself. Like just the way it moves. Or even a screen like this with clouds going by, just flying around from world to world. So this world has excuse me. I'm still recovering from a tickle in my throat. But yeah, this land has a lot of traps and things like that. You really gotta watch for, like that enemy there with the claw. That can create some issues. And this was just not like used to, like when I fumble right here, just not used to the timing and how best to deal with that. But that's an easy thing that doesn't take long to actually clean up once you know the danger is there. But yeah, for the most part, the stages are super, super short, and it's just a blast. I played quite a bit of this, even after clearing it those first 3 times. And I think I haven't played it in obviously about a month now, but I do see myself going back and playing other sections that I have never seen before, because I think that would be a lot of fun after just allowing some time and space between plays. But it's just really, really imaginative. Snakes and these red creatures, whatever they're supposed to be. Just all sorts of stuff. And just the sheer variety of desserts, which are the score items in this game. Like, you will see so many different types of desserts. I forget what the pig thing does, but yeah. So yeah, anyway, I might as well talk about the scoring for a bit. The whole idea is, as far as I know, as long as you have more and more enemies that are kind of like you've thrown water at them and they're kind of just blue and laying there, when you then wipe out that cluster of enemies, you get more points. So sometimes I checked out a portion of one run where someone was playing a 1cc for about 50 minutes because they were just capitalizing as much as they possibly could on score, like just making sure the groups were the biggest they could possibly get. Now, I think it's oh, maybe not, never mind. There's a passage under that section. I didn't show it in this run. It was, I think, one of my other clears that I recorded. But you can fall into this pit, and then you're stuck there until this water flows from a fountain and fills up, and then you can get out. Learning the hitbox for this was a little tricky at first, but it's pretty simple stuff. There's just something so whimsical about this game. I love it. Like these enemies with their little backpacks and their nets. That was so close. Oh my god. And I think this was the first time ever seeing that dude jump up, so I was not going to take any chances. I was just going to play it super safe until he was gone for sure. Both of these guys, for that matter. One thing that I noticed, sometimes, like right there, it looked like I didn't move over much. You really, really got to watch that, because sometimes you'll go up high, and it feels like your character can move over a lot and get to the next ledge, but then you'll suddenly realize, wow, I haven't even moved that much. So you really got to watch that kind of stuff. This stage can be pretty tricky when you're first getting used to it. We got spikes everywhere. It's easy to fall off these things. It's pretty precarious, but it's a fun stage. The whole game is fun. Oh, I love it. And the music and everything too is just perfect. If you do that plant a third time, there's like a plant head thing. I'm not sure. I don't think it snaps at you, but it has like drool coming out or something like that, from what I remember. This is one of those parts where you got to be patient, because we got all sorts of enemies dropping items, and you just got to wait. Play it safe. There's really no reason to rush this part at all. And then when you're up here, those fungus dudes or whatever they're supposed to be will just be shooting things like that. So you really got to pay attention, make sure you're not jumping into things. Or that you're sliding because of your water. Like that can happen too, where it's like one of their projectiles is not lined up with you, but then you slide backwards and you take a hit because there's just so much water. It's just really, really cool. I love it. There's some really, really awesome design ideas in this game. So this is a neat boss. It can be really tricky at times, but for the most part, this is just how you go about it. You just get rid of the arms. You can do major damage when the arm is folded, because when you're hitting more of the fire sections, when they're closer together, it just does a huge chunk. And another interesting thing is that if you were, let's say, you had damaged the boss halfway, like it had half its health left, and then you took a hit, you have to start the fight over again, but you don't have to do the entire health bar. You would just do whatever was remaining. So I thought that was a neat design choice as well. So this is a really, really cool looking stage. You got to be really careful though, because just the danger of falling is everywhere you can imagine. And there are some sections too, like these guys are pretty dangerous. Oh, you can so easily get swept off the edge. It's crazy watching this. But yeah, there would have been a second dude with a mace on or the spike ball on the chain. But if you go forward and then walk back and then return, usually it will be gone. So that's something to keep in mind and use to your advantage. But yeah, this can be a really nasty stage to get used to. And it's neat that we have a passage that has us just going back to the first stage for a second before coming back to here. And you really gotta watch those spears too, holy smokes. So what I'm doing here is revealing the big guy swinging the thing and then coming back up here so that when I go back, he's just gone instead of actually dealing with him, because it's a really nasty section. There are, I think, yeah, two of them. There's one more coming up, and you gotta watch out for the thunder strike or the lightning strikes and all that. So there's the second big guy. We're gonna go all the way to the top of the hill and then back again. Not that you have to do it this way, it's just safest. And then it's just wide open, there's no one else here. And then we just have this big enemy tower thing that we take out from a safe distance. I'm sure there are other ways to go about it, but this is just how I wanted to prioritize that. Just keep everything super safe, since this was the first clear ever. This boss fight can be really tricky at times. So the big clown just goes back and forth. Sometimes he will just do what he did there. Other times he will, I'm not sure, like sometimes I'm able to prevent him from doing flames, but other times it just happens and he drops flames. And so I take a hit here just because I wasn't paying attention, didn't prevent it this time around, so it just panned out that way. But yeah, it's just something you really got to watch for. Now the game is pretty generous with lives. I don't recall the exact score brackets where you earn lives, but yeah, like they come pretty easily as long as you're just picking up score items and whatnot. You'll get 2 or 3 lives during a run. And the first one, actually, I think the first 2 come pretty early in the game, if I'm not mistaken. I would need to check this stuff because, like I said earlier, it's been a month since I played this. But anyway, on to the last world. So this is a pretty crazy first stage to figure out, or a first stage of this world, I mean. But you just got to be really careful that you're not jumping up into spikes and stuff like that, because there's just a lot going on here. Sometimes you will just want to let, like when the spike drops, you'll just kind of drift over onto the next one that you want to get onto. And then more falling sand blocks or whatever they are. And then we're facing one of these dudes. I almost took a hit there. That was crazy. Just like almost running right into him. And then here we have another little passage coming up, a little secret. Just throwing that right there. Boom. And then here's a bonus item sort of room. I never really ever prioritized attempting to grab as much as I could. It was kind of just whatever's on the way down on the safest side of the door you're going through anyway. This was a wild part because I didn't mean to grab all 4 of those trains, and it can be pretty crazy when you go from your regular speed to just this hyper movement speed. It's just nuts how fast you move. Pretty simple stuff here, but we are on our way to a big nasty boss. Okay, so here's the final boss. Big clown throwing flames all over the place. This can be a fight that takes getting used to, but once you kind of know opportunities to damage it with low risk, it gets pretty smooth. You just really got to watch for when flames come into the corners, or not jumping up into them because you're too close and that sort of thing. I always like smashing the lower section right there before things get too crazy. And then you just throw when he hurls them at you like that. But you gotta get the timing perfect, otherwise they will just like hit the walls and start moving. Man, I'm so thankful I made it through that one, because I think my timing was almost slightly off there. It felt that way. But yeah, there's the final boss, and then we got this phase that they throw at you. And, excuse me, I left a death in because it's a great example of how you really, really got to watch what you're doing, what you commit to. I just fell down, and because there's nothing to do once you're falling, because sometimes you just won't catch a ledge, or like you noticed, the very bottom ledge is in a little more, so you can't even make it to that to stop yourself. So you gotta watch. This is the only time, as far as I know, where the boss will have full health again. But I just really nailed it right there, got as much damage in before he even put the arms out. And then this can be tricky to figure out if you're not sure what to do, but you gotta wait until the arms are angled so that it flows down and drips onto the head. If you do it at other times, it just won't do anything. So I thought that was really cool. And then it spins back. So it's kind of just a matter of doing as much damage as you can in those tiny windows of opportunity. And there we go. And everything comes crumbling down. But we are saved by the big bird. So yeah, pretty short game. It's a lot of fun. It looks fantastic. It controls really well. It's just got all sorts of neat features, items, things you gotta watch out for. I really, really enjoy this. It's just such a cool game. Anyway, I will leave things off there for now. If you want to watch until the very end and just see the little animations or whatever else they show, that's great. And if not, that's fine too. But thank you so much for being here. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below if you have ever played this before, if you would like to check it out, any of that kind of stuff. I really enjoy jumping into stuff like this from time to time. It's just a blast. So anyway, thanks again. I always appreciate everybody who swings by to check these out and comment and whatever. And yeah, have an awesome day, and we will see you next time.